Cathi Matea here at your home for Real Country, Q94.1, 18 wheels and a dozen roses. So from one Cathi to another Cathi, different spelling in total different ways.
Yeah, and I thought you were fixing to call me that. I'm like, that's not me.
That's Cathi with a C and an I on the end of it. Cathi Cox-Boniol, for the sake of people listening in Radio Land. No stranger as well to radio. So, Cath, thanks so much for coming in this morning.
Happy to be here.
All good?
Yep, everything's great.
I totally agree. And so the focus of what we'll talk about, City of Ruston, honoring our heroes celebration. This is going to be the 8th annual one. And I was there in the beginning, and I know you were there in the beginning. And so this all started when Ronnie Walker took over. You know the story on that?
Well, I know some of it, and I'll say before you get into that is he is such a supporter of our veterans. It's very important to him, and a lot of times he's told me this, he just makes decisions because he says it's the right thing to do for people who have laid it on the line for our freedom. So I wasn't there when he made the decision, and you might know a little bit more about that.
No, well, it wasn't. No, that's it in a nutshell, that nothing was going on. He said, well, that ends today, and we're going to make something going on. And James Austin was appointed to the taskmaster, if you will. I don't know if I should say it that way.
I sometimes feel put to task, so yeah.
Well, yeah, you, me, and other volunteers that get involved in it, and that's the whole thing. It is volunteers.
Absolutely.
It is a free event for all veterans and their families. And let's revisit the past a little bit. Because were you there at the first one? I was looking for it because I have a video of the flyover. Do you remember that?
So here's the deal. Back then, I would have still been with the school district.
Okay.
And so I possibly was running around corralling kids because at the very beginning, we had them lining the streets, which obviously would, and so there was that, deal. So that's a yes and a no. Was I there? Yes.
Well,
was I aware? Probably not.
You had to have been aware. Those F-16s, when they
boom, yeah,
that was an awesome experience, and you just jogged a memory of mine, because a parade was held for at least, I think, the first 3 to 4 years.
Oh yeah, in fact, my husband Tom, who we all know is the commander of the VFW post, walked in it for a couple of times. I mean, which that was pretty cool. And they tried to make the parade more and more elaborate, but in all honesty, it was the numbers of folks that could actually ride or safely get into vehicles to be in that parade. That was becoming a challenge. And so I understand why that had to go away.
Well, plus, I mean, to honor the spirit, literally, of Veterans Day, Armistice Day, it's try to be held on the 11th of the month, which is Veterans Day, at the 11th hour. And that year, it happened to be a Friday. So getting out of school presented a challenge as well. And something else, too, and this will dovetail into why it's going to be at the sports complex. When things are in the heart of downtown Ruston, which is a great thing, brings people there, it also kind of puts a crimp into the merchants there.
Yeah, and the normal flow of things. And I got to tell you, you talk about school on a Friday. Fridays are unique this time of year because of football and playoffs, and I mean, that involves a lot of people. And it's always been the intention that we have kids at this event because they need to be educated about what's going on. And there's so many elements of this program that provide them with a real, I can't say it's a full sense because it's a pretty quick deal, but they get a taste of all that goes into honoring veterans and the reason behind it.
Well, you being the educator too, and I know James and Ronnie as well, these are teachable moments.
Oh, absolutely.
For the youth as well, and it's still living history.
It is. And there are even things that it's hard to call it history because I don't think of my lifetime if we're really talking history, but we are. And so, this year was the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War, and that's pretty current stuff. And so then, we start talking about the POWs and MIAs, and I mean, that's still very much on the minds of veterans and their families. But it's also part of ceremonies that continue to go on. I mean, in our city, at a local coffee shop, they have a table set up year round to honor the POW MIA at the VFW meetings. The table is always there, and that's a part of this program. Talk about a teachable moment.
Right. And you can say PJ's Coffee. That's okay.
I didn't know what the rules were on that.
Fire me.
Okay. Well, I won't, and I will say Bobby
No.
Mounts, who owns PJ's,
Right.
is a Marine. He was an active Marine serving. That is very personal to him. In fact, right now down there, they're having Veterans Coffee Club. Those guys are down there enjoying coffee and conversation and camaraderie, and it's just a safe place for them to go and sit and visit. And so we have people in our community that are willing to open their doors and their hearts to that kind of stuff. We really appreciate Bobby doing that. And I think our Veterans Day program is just an extension of that. It involves more people and gets more folks engaged.
You know, I was looking at, and for some reason, I just keep files and notes, and I don't know why, but I have this from.
Because you're old school. Can we just say it?
Yeah, well, and just to prove people, yeah, I'm old. I got a file here.
He tried to hand it to me, and I'm like, no, I'm not going there.
But I'm looking at a name here, and not JD. Is it JD Hammonds?
It was J.D. Harper.
JD Harper. That's
Yes.
it. Yeah, man. There was somebody who literally gave back, and
He was a walking embodiment of it.
That's exactly right.
And you know, Mr. JD, I mean, it didn't matter where you were. He was going to invite you into, even if you couldn't be a member of the VFW or the American Legion, he was going to invite you into what he considered the movement. You know, honoring our veterans, making sure people are aware, patriotism at, you know, the peak of everything. And when we lost him, there was a real fear that we might not be able to recapture that kind of spirit. But I have to say, I think our guys are doing a pretty good job of continuing that legacy, and he's referred to often.
You know, as I'm talking with you, I'm going to call it the Forgotten Veterans. And, you know, I got literally kind of like the paradigm, because I graduated high school in '73, the end of the Vietnam War. And when I heard it was the 50-year anniversary, I'm like, really? That's my high school
That's
degree?
exactly right.
And so, you know, all love to those veterans, but there's other veterans since 2001 that are walking the streets, you know what I mean? And we don't give them too much honor or homage, you know, and this is for you too.
It's a little disconnected.
That's
and,
right.
you know, they came along at a different time. You know, when you get on the other side of the Vietnam War, there's a completely different mindset about stuff. Now, I will say this, in 91, when we went overseas, and it was quick, and it was awesome, and people were really filled with patriotism, and even after 9/11, there was a sense of that. But in the extended period after that, there are a lot of our folks that have served that you're right, they're out there and it's like nobody really cares.
They went over, did a couple of tours, they come back and they're walking around and I'm going to also we'll get to the details of the event that will be held at the rest. But this is where Tom comes in, the VFW, and this is for them. You know what I mean? Those that have went overseas and served. That the VFW is here for you, and they may not be aware of that.
It is, and in fact, they've talked about, because they're always looking to bring guys in, because they know they need one another. I think for our younger veterans, there is such a gap between, I mean, I teasingly call them the old guys, and they are, because it's been a different experience. You know, just like when Tom was in Vietnam, at the end of it, his experience was very different from, say, his father when he was in World War II. It was a totally different game. And so finding ways to bridge that can sometimes be challenging. And I think that's what makes these community events important. It's honoring all who served. And so you welcome everyone, whether you served, you know, like Mr. Sam Maddox, you're 104 years old and we're still celebrating you, or you're somebody that just got back from being over there on deployment. Everyone and your family and the community, because we are all extended family. We're all part of that healing. And I think that's a thing that we don't spend enough time talking about. You know, that there are wounds that we will never see from these folks that went over and served and came back quietly, and they harbor that inside of them. And I think that's one reason that the VFW has been really kind of aggressive and starting things like the coffee club, where you can go and not necessarily sit around and talk about, you know, what you did in combat, but like, you know, whatever you want to say, man, we understand it, you know, and so being there for one another. And as a community, we are standing in that gap when we show up for our Veterans Day program.
All right, so the Veterans Day ceremony, City of Ruston, honoring our heroes celebration, is going to be on Friday, a week from, well, this Friday. It'll be November 10th, and it's going to be at the Ruston Sports
Right.
Complex. And the beauty of that one, too, Kath, I know it's planned for outdoors, but should it rain, we go indoors.
Actually, I think they've just made the decision to go indoors.
Oh, is that right?
completely. Yeah,
Okay,
there was a
okay.
lot of talk about that, and at the end of the
That's
day,
fine.
they said, you know what? Why don't we just go inside, because we can have seating set up. It can be more organized. There's not this issue, and mercy knows in Louisiana we can wake up
Mm-hmm.
and it's doing one thing one minute and something else with the weather. So just take that element out of it, and that
Okay.
way everybody goes. And so there's going to be ample seating in there for the veterans. We've got musicians coming from Ruston High School and Cedar Creek, all of the sixth graders from I. Lewis. There's going to be plenty of seating for all that, plus folks from the community that want to go, and then a totally separate room where there will be booths for people to go and look at and get information. And these could be any community organizations.
That's right.
And plus, the great Rusty Wilfong is going to be cooking food for everybody that'll be there. Sausage dogs. I mean, come on, any better than that on a Friday honoring veterans with a sausage dog in your hand?
Well, and not only that, I mean, talk about teachable moments, not just only for students, but for community. The POW ceremony.
Oh, man. Gets me every
Oh, I
time.
know.
Oh.
I mean, I could go off on that one, and I'm not a big fan of John McCain, but we won't go there right now.
No.
For another reason.
But you can't devalue his experience.
Well,
Nope.
we won't go there.
We won't.
I mean, well, that was the early 90s when there were still known POWs there.
I'm talking about when he was there.
Well, I know I should.
Okay, we won't go there
No,
then, because I'm not really sure where you're going, and we probably don't need to go there.
No, we don't. We don't. But anyway, the POW ceremony, Ronnie Lyons conducts that, and it is just so powerful and moving. And then there's always a keynote speaker, and the keynote speaker this year is going to be Kelvin Samuel. I know James Austin arranged that, and all the keynote speakers just do a wonderful job.
They do. It's hard for us to imagine because we've never stood in their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's great to hear from their perspective. I think that's what's so phenomenal. And it's like all of these elements woven together to tell a story during that hour that we spend together honoring our veterans.
Well, and you said an hour, and I want to say it
Roughly.
lasts maybe 45 minutes.
It might.
I mean, it's the heart and soul of the ceremony and why it is. It isn't so much the pageantry,
Right.
And the cosmetics of it. It's a very sincere event. So we want to invite everybody out, totally free. I mean, obviously, just to be part of it and come and be.
I always tell people it doesn't matter, what they're doing. If you can go away with one thing, it's a win.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to this thing. How many years now do we say? Eight? Whatever. Every time I come away with something new, because you're hearing from a new person, you'll bump into some new veteran that you've not had the chance to visit with, and people are like, I don't know what to say. All you really have to say is thank you. Mm-hmm. That's it. No, it's not.
Or
like,
just be there.
That's just be there. But they say I wouldn't know what to say, and really. It sounds trite, but thank you for your service goes a long way. You talk about those that feel forgotten or overlooked. Just someone acknowledging that they're on the planet and they did their part.
Right.
That's huge.
I take away from the book of Job, a lot of folks get down on that guy. He had a bad day. Had a really bad
he did.
day.
He had a really bad day.
A huge bad day.
Huge in lots of ways.
And three of his friends heard about that, and they traveled from afar, and they saw the condition he was in, and they sat with him for 7 days, not speaking. And so just by being there, counts for a lot.
It does. And, I can't imagine what it feels like to them to walk into a full house. Used to
Right.
when we had it in the park and it was full, wall to wall, people sitting together. I mean, it wasn't for me and I was moved by it, and this is something we just need to come together around.
Sure enough.
You don't have to be an advocate for war. You don't have to be pro-violence or whatever. You just have to be pro-veteran.
And that's me. I'm totally...
Honor their service. That's it.
Well, all right, so it's going to be at 11 a.m. Get there about 10:30, if not earlier, and it's at the Ruston Sports Complex. We'll be indoors. It will be Friday, November 10th. What else could we possibly say, Cath?
I would say be there or be square.
Yeah, be there or be square.
But if you need to be round, that's okay too.
Yeah, or ovular.
I couldn't think of any other really cool shapes there.
We better get out of here.
I'll be one of the other shapes for sure. Oh, and can we, before we go,
Sure.
Can we just say thank you to Ronnie Walker and the city of Ruston for putting this together? I mean, I know it's very volunteer driven, but nothing happens unless there's leadership. Right. And so we just need to say thank you because it would not have happened without them.
I like to say it that without the inspiration, there will be no perspiration.
That's right.
So,
and that's where it started.
That's exactly casting the vision. All right. Well, thanks for everything that you do.
Just trying to do my part.
Yeah, I know.
And you too, man.
I know. Just get up and get involved. Why do you do it? Because
there's plenty to do.
There's plenty to do, and why not? All right. Cathi Cox-Boniol here in the studio this morning as we continue at your home for real country. All right. We're still streaming. Let me kill that. And there you have it. We are